सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया, that's it. But listen तो.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो, सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Ethereal in her beautiful mirror-work dress, her translucent veil stretching down to her skirt, Radha, lover and consort to the god Krishna, goddess of compassion and devotion, appeared in the posters as the symbol of a newborn land. To her sides were the ancient symbols of that state, the coiled dragon herald and the beast with a dragon's head and a lion's body, markers of the Sanamahi faith, which had been sought to be stamped out when Hinduism became Manipur's official religion in the 18th century. Fresh from her triumph in the Bangladesh War, her goddess herself to many in her victorious nation, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi spoke of her wishes for the new state in the third person. It is our wish that Manipur may shine like a gem and impart beauty to the whole of India. Even as savage ethnic cleansing and killings continue to tear apart the state Indira birthed in 1972, the image on the poster helps us understand what exactly went wrong. Even then, there were communities in Manipur, Nagas, Kukis, Zo, Muslims, for whom the glow of the gem seemed a little ominous, wrote scholar Sudeep Chakravarti in his brilliant book on India's eastern borderlands. And anxieties of identity among the Meiteis of the plains themselves kept simmering. The violence in Manipur is ultimately the story of what happens when counterinsurgency uses the manipulation of ethnicity and identity as its tools instead of institution building and the rule of law. The birth of the Meitei insurgency is enmeshed with the story of Irabot Singh, a charismatic figure from a poor home who could never complete school due to poverty. Irabot became tied by marriage to Manipur's monarch, Maharaja Churachand Singh. For a time, he was in charge of the Nikhil Manipuri Hindu Mahasabha, an organization set up to resist Christian evangelism. Then in 1934, a women-led rebellion against forced labor by the monarchy swept across the state. Furious with the violence unleashed against the women, Irabot rebelled against his brother-in-law. The women, author Hamen Borgohain records him saying, had, I quote, asked for a handful of rice and you gave them a pail of blood. To Irabot, it seemed that the liberation of Manipur could only come about as part of a wider rebellion by the region's people, Meiteis, Nagas, Kukis, the Zo, for an independent northeast. Later incarcerated in Silhet jail, he would encounter Communist Party of India leaders such as Hemanga Biswas and Jyotirmoy Nandi, and help set up the organization in Manipur. For many in Manipur, accession to India choked their legitimate political aspirations. Even though the state had established its own constitution in 1948 and even conducted elections where, as historian Priyadarshini Gangte records, each candidate had a ballot box of their own featuring their photograph, it was only accorded the status of a so-called C category state with no elected leadership. Future Meitei insurgents historian N. Joykumar Singh records sought to address this democracy deficit using both Irabot's communism and his ideas of a pan-ethnic insurgency. The Meitei State Committee, set up in 1966, turned for support to the so-called federal government of Nagaland to create a joint revolutionary movement. The Meitei State Committee achieved very little. The most lethal weapon in its arsenal later turned out to be an unserviceable machine gun, but it did lay the template for future insurgency. The emotional support enjoyed by the Meitei State Committee was made clear in 1969 when police had to open fire to contain mobs who tried to attack Prime Minister Indira on her visit to Imphal that year. Led by Onam Sudhir Kumar Singh, the United National Liberation Front, or UNLF, again sought to build an armed insurgency, this time to free Manipur from migrants, among them ethnic Marwari traders from Bengal, and thus bring about what it saw as a national rejuvenation. The UNLF reached out for the first time to both China and Pakistan, that is East Pakistan, for assistance, but was treated with suspicion by both their intelligence services. In one case, dozens of UNLF cadre were deported from East Pakistan back into Tripura. The revolutionary government of Manipur, in the next iteration of these efforts, did succeed in receiving training at a Pakistani army base near Sylhet. The group's cadre conducted a series of successful operations inside Manipur, including robbing the post office in Imphal and the office of the Imperial College. The War of 1971, though, put paid to its hopes. Then, from 1978 on, the People's Liberation Army, or PLA, led by N. Bisheshwar Singh, again resumed the campaign, mounting a series of lethal attacks against Indian forces and police. The People's Revolutionary Party of Kanglepak, the old name for Manipur, and the Kanglepak Communist Party also joined this campaign. Levels of violence would surge until the mid-1980s. Ethnic assertion among the Meitei mirrored the growth of similar insurgent movements in the region's hills. The National Socialist Council of Nagaland's Isaac Muvia faction exercised de facto control over 4 of the 5 hill districts in Manipur, that's Ukhrul, Senapati, Tamenglong and Chandel. Even though the NSC and IM signed a ceasefire with the government in 1997, its influence remained intact. Even worse, the rival NSC and Khaplang faction continued to operate from across the border in coordination with the Manipuri PLA. The Kuki National Army, formed in 1988, was one response to the growth of ethnic Naga armed power, followed in quick order by the establishment of Zomi military groups. Each ethnic militia fueled fear in the other communities and support for their own armed groups. From the early 1990s, the region saw multiple inter-ethnic conflicts: Kuki-Naga conflict, Meitei-Muslim conflict, Kuki-Karbi, Himar-Dimasa, and even Kuki-Tamil clashes, which pitted the community against traders in More who had settled there during British imperial rule. The extension of the ceasefire with the NSC and IM into Manipur in 2001 sparked large-scale violence as fears grew among the Meitei that their state would end up being divided. Ethnic groups have had a complex relationship with the Indian state, sometimes collaborating with the army against each other, and at other times striking at the military. Although Indian troops have on occasion struck across the border into Myanmar, expert Bibu Rotre notes, these attacks have inflicted no significant casualties on the PLA or NSC and Khaplang. These insurgent organizations have continued to attack the Indian army, as well as fighting Zomi and Kuki insurgent groups. The contestation between these groups, scholar Sekhulal Kom has written, has been fueled by struggles to control lucrative revenues from legal trade, as well as trafficking in narcotics across the border with Myanmar. Long-running militarization has left behind bitter resentments against the Indian army and the state. In 2004, 12 women famously marched to Imphal's Kangla fort, disrobed, and chanted slogans asking soldiers to rape them. That protest followed the alleged rape murder of Thangjam Manorama, suspected to have been working as a courier for the PLA. Ever since the long insurgency in Manipur began, the well-respected BSF officer Ian Rammohan once wrote, New Delhi sought to buy off ethnic elites by showering the region with cash and then letting them siphon it off. Large-scale extortion by ethnic armed groups, he observed, was also tolerated, with the government quietly allowing insurgents to collect a percentage of government salaries and development funds directly from district treasuries. The policy bought India a degree of peace, but it corrupted the polity and completely shattered institutions. The rise of Chief Minister N. Biren Singh has seen efforts to build legitimacy for his party through the use of new Hindu nationalist mythos. In 2018, Biren Singh proclaimed that, in the time of God Krishna, he made the northeast part of India by marrying the princess of Arunachal Pradesh. Although this appeal to Hindu feeling has helped the Bharatiya Janata Party build its reach among some ethnic Meitei, it has stoked fears among other ethnic groups, just, if you'll recall the story I told you, as it did in Prime Minister Indira's time. The Chief Minister's anti-cookie polemic has stoked the fires. Finding resolutions to this conflict of identity needs genuine democratic institution building, which will allow communities to meaningfully exercise power over their own lives. The failure to build them has made everyone in Manipur, Kuki, Meitei, Zomi, Naga, a victim and has come to threaten the very ideal of India. I'm Praveen Swami and I'm National Security Editor of ThePrint. Thank you for watching Security Code.